I hope it should be well, because I love this novel, still love this novel very much, and I had good reactions in my country, first of all, then as it has been published in Germany and now in Poland, and I suspect the next publications in a few countries. And this is a quite complicated novel. In the very center of it is some piano player who used to be a rock musician, and then he went to the most important political event in his country. It was a huge revolution in the capital. So he used to play piano music for barricades in that time. And it is a quite musical novel. I always dreamt about writing in a musical way, that my book could somehow sound. And this book has really the possibility to sound, because there is a playlist connected to the book. You can get it just through a QR code, and then you find it, the playlist of this hero. You find it on YouTube.
Does the playlist correspond to specific passages?
Yes, because I forgot to mention his role after the revolution. He's initiating, he's doing some radio station, his private radio station, and we spent with him the night. He starts broadcasting at midnight, and we are with him until 8 in the morning. And he told the stories about his adventures in that life, but at the same time, he plays for the listeners. He plays his favorite music, and so we get this 15 compositions in his playlist.
Did you, when looking at the writing as it corresponds to the music at hand, was it a question of rhythm? Was it a question of emotional tone? How did you find yourself responding to the music as to the actual prose?
Yeah, it was my dream to play some music, to be a member of some band since I was teenager. But I didn't learn any instrument, so I tried to. It was the reason that I became a poet, because I was going to meet some friends, musicians, and I could write the lyrics for them. And it was just a dream of my youth, but it became a reality after many years, and I started collaborating with many bands, but first of all I have long cooperation with the Polish musicians, with the band. The name of the band is Carbido, and so we recorded 5 albums, And so I just experienced some other kind of artistic life, not just literary routine, but also this way of life of progressive rock band. So and it was such kind of experience which I wanted very much to transform into literary text. So it is like mutual enrichment between literary career and musical. Mm-hmm.
And I'll just take it a second. How do you find that your work, first of all, your work is received in Croatia, and you know, and then sort of transition to Ukrainian authors more generally? Like, what kind of ground do you find here, and what kind of reactions?
Yep. Okay. I think we have very positive situation in the meaning that the people here in Croatia, they are very high qualified readers, so to speak. If you just take a walk here in city of Zagreb, you see many bookstores. This is a reading culture, reading society, and Ukrainian authors like me, so a few of us have been translated into Croatian in the last years, during the last years. For example, the first example I do have is, I'm sorry, this my phone. Very high, I would say this is the readership of high quality. You can see it if you walk through the city, how many bookstores they have. And also this is probably the question of translators. So there is not a very huge number of them who can translate from Ukrainian, but for example translators who did this radio night by me, they are two professors of Ukrainian studies at the university here, and they are just brilliant. So I get it because I cannot read in Croatian. I cannot really understand this language, but I get some feedbacks, like, you know, articles, like critics from Croatian media, and I'm always very satisfied to find here this understanding, the very good, very high understanding of what I do. I'm also very happy that the books written by my daughter, Sofia Andrukhovych, two of them were published here, and they are also somewhere here in that bookstore. I can even see Amadolka, her newest novel. So I think it's a very productive situation. for us, for Ukrainian authors, and I'm afraid we in Ukraine we didn't publish such number of Croatian authors. We don't have such a vision of what today's Croatian literature is.
Progress to be made.
Let's hope
Yeah.
we are in progress. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Take a step back for a second to talk about sort of the Ukrainian language and literature as a whole. I was preparing, and I went back and read an interview they gave in 2020. It was for the Ukrainian, it's by the guy who hosts Ukraine World. It was for a book, a collection of interviews with Ukrainian intellectuals. At the time, you were pretty pessimistic about the state of, it was a different moment. You were afraid that because of the sort of constant soft power of that Ukraine would become a Russian-speaking, predominantly Russian-speaking country. Lots happened.
Yeah,
it's
of course, it's a very interesting paradox of Russian military invasion. That the aggressors cut off Ukraine. They just pushed us from their shadow away. And I think 3 years ago I was also critical about the political choice of Ukrainians in 2019. I was critical towards the president and his government, and I didn't see the future of Ukraine optimistically. But again, the war has changed it. So it's a very extreme situation which suddenly brings some completely unexpected development. Unexpected things are going on, like this solidarity, unity of all the regions of Ukraine, and the new level, much higher level of patriotism. So I'm actually I'm much more optimistic now than in the year 2020. Let's say.
Makes sense. What do you consider the role of language and literature in the struggle for sovereignty and the struggle for independence?
Sorry, I didn't.
In this context, what do you consider the role of literature and language as a whole in this struggle?
Yes, I'm quite far away of idea that the writer should be some kind of national teacher or leader of national development. I think the main function is just to give the chance for the language and for freedom of thinking and freedom of expression. And as one of the post-Soviet countries, Ukraine had huge problems with this aspect, with freedom of speech, for example. But the writers, Ukrainian writers, are one of the social groups which has changed a lot of things in that meaning, so that the fact that we have defeated any censorship, I mean also not just institutional one, but this let's say personal inner censorship, which was very typical for Soviet times. The writers were very, very restricted in their own imaginary power. And so the writers are the part of cultural landscape in the world, which is always visible. They are very active in social networks, in media. They are not so actively read as they are heard. And I would say there are many dozens of thousands who know myself, but they didn't read any of my books. But they know my statements, my interviews, my political proposals, and so it's a kind of very special work and task. And the last point I would like to do is, if the Russians came, as the Russians came to some Ukrainian cities like Mariupol, or as they occupied them, the cities, one of the first moves, one of the first attacks were the libraries there. And they had since years collected some names and titles of books. They have some long black list of the works of Ukrainian literature, and they grabbed them from the libraries, and some of them, of these books, were burned up. So it's, in my opinion, it's a sign of how important is this Ukrainian literature and Ukrainian culture at all.
Yeah, I work with one of the groups I work with is Chitomo, and they've done a lot of documentation of the destruction of libraries and the efforts to rebuild them. With everything that's happening right now, what gives you cause for optimism and what gives you cause for concern within the context of literature and language?
I would start by concern. I hope this war is not eternal, because my concern is that because of the war, we are now somehow too serious in our cultural ideas and cultural works, and maybe too pathetic. So it is something which I tried to attack during all my life, that Ukrainianness, Ukrainian tradition is too serious and too pathetic, and maybe we have a good perspective to do it more playful, more ironical, more more open. And yeah, this is the concern that if the war will last the next years or maybe decades, we will somehow more and more conservative.
And the humor, like, was the key to the beginning of your career, like, if I understood it right?
Yes, it was a part of our aesthetics in 1980s. As we had our poetic trio called Bubabu, and we tried to continue it after this group stopped appearing. And what is optimistic, I think, is of course it is absolutely unique existential experience we live now in. I think it is a time where the best Ukrainian novels, best Ukrainian movies, best Ukrainian spectacles, theater shows are born. So maybe it's a time of biggest challenge we could imagine, and it's of course some kind of stimulating time for our artists.
One thing I have to ask about, and it's kind of sensitive, like, I didn't understand a lot the details of the legislation around Russian books in Ukraine. I didn't understand quite exactly what it did, but there was some, like, where they can't be distributed in large scale at least. And there's some tension around that, like, what is the role of Russian authors, Russian language now, and how do you, within Ukraine, and how do you balance that, obviously, it's colonial with all its legacy. Like, I guess, without asking too specific a question, how do you approach that topic?
Oh, it's first of all the question of our resistance in that war. We need to deal with some global mythology, kind of mythology about so-called great Russian culture. And this, let's say, canonized literary heritage is a kind of whitewashing of what today's Russia does. So there is a kind of consent in Ukraine among cultural activists that we just put it, I mean this Russian heritage, we put it into some, in the terms of pandemia, let's call it quarantine. So we deny some common discussions, podiums, presentations with Russian colleagues. And if they are against their regime, we usually deny too, because we have this principle now that the world, the intellectuals in that world should really be stressed, should understand how far is that Russian invasion also the product of intellectual work, how far it has been prepared by great imperialistic Russian culture. I'm not sure it will be always in that way. I'm actually rather I'm sure that we will be back to this Russian literature, but with some some precondition, which should be, of course, Ukrainian victory in the war.
I don't want to keep too much time. I just had a funny moment the other day. I was reading your essay, "What Language Are You From?"
Mm-hmm.
And you described a encounter with in Vienna with a French person who suggested, that
to change the language, to change the name.
An hour later, after reading that, I was in conversation with a Slovenian organizer and writer who was organizing the Slovenian presentation at the Frankfurt Book Fair.
Mm-hmm.
And they described the tendency in Slovenian children's books right now that are catching on around the world to do exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
That they're shortening their names and they're starting to write first in English and then translating it back.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Ukraine has this relationship with Russia, not Russia obviously, but in many parts it's also English that is like the hegemonic language. I guess how do you look back on that essay and that description now?
I think there is always this temptation to join something which is bigger than your own, let's call it, area, and which is more successful. And actually, we can use the terms of import-export for cultural works too. So the literatures and just the books, the novels, which have been written in English, have much better chances per se, or in Spanish or in French. But I would prefer to stay with Ukrainian because it's just the only language where I don't have any borders. I'm absolutely free and I'm enjoying my writing. If I would try to write something in one of foreign languages, I would always feel a kind that I'm sitting in a cage of this language. I don't have too many maneuvers. I don't have this freedom to be witty, to be provoking, to be just what I want to be.
Are you working on a new novel in Ukrainian?
Yes.
Where does that stand?
To be honest, I'm not sure it will be a novel. I didn't decide by now. Maybe it will be a collection of short stories, but with the same protagonist. And it is about the beginning of 70s, so it is the time as I was as old as my hero in that book. So It is there are the stories about a boy who is so between 10 and 12 years old, and the country will be not mentioned, but you recognize some signs of Ukraine, of some totalitarian system, and you always see and you feel there is a war, some war which is like eternal. You don't have interwar times. Actually, each peaceful period of time is actually interwar time in that country, and there are some signs of this epoch, like Soviet tanks which are going somewhere in the Carpathian Mountains in direction of Czechoslovakia. So you can understand it's 1968. And the main idea is unknown for me. No, but it is quite long period which I have before I finish it. I just completed some 7 parts of this future book, and I have really huge satisfaction in writing it. So I think it's also about our today's war. But
what part of it is it? The eternal aspect, or
this eternal war is like what we have today, also. And I hope the readers will recognize these allusions I do there.
I don't want to forget to pass along a hello from Natalka Polowyanka.
Natalka Polowinka?
Yeah, though it's
Polowinka.
No, it's a nickname.
Is she an actor or not?
No, it's Natalia Koryenko.
Okay.
But she said she had that nickname.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one more question, then I'll leave it open for you if you haven't had anything. Which is, you talked about how the need of the West to understand that the invasion is a long intellectual product. When you look at the way that the West and the intellectuals in particular, writers have engaged with this, what frustrates you the most? What do you think that people are having trouble understanding about what's happening now in Ukraine?
I think there is a problem of just a style of reporting about Ukraine. I would say we in our country we get the information about the front, about the situation in the cities. We get everything in a more optimistic way. We have actually quite positive vision of how it will be, and that we, I mean, Ukraine will win this war. And I think the Western media are, of course, more objective than Ukrainian media, but they are very much concentrated on our lusts. And the general a vision of the situation in Ukraine in Western audience can be extremely tragic and extremely pessimistic. So I think the task for intellectuals from both sides would be somehow to balance these things. I understand that we now are in this military situation that we have some kind of informational restrictions, censorship, and this is the specifics of our country which is fighting. But anyway, the reports in Western media could be more different, could be also concentrated on Ukrainian achievements.
What do you think drives that? Why would the view from Western media be so pessimistic?
I think there is just one of the principles of media is that actually the bad news are just let's say are sold better, and catastrophes are always a good subject to report about. Maybe this is the main thing, and the second one, it's probably this idea that Russian army is undefeatable. They never lost some wars, which is not true. It's not historical thinking, but mythological one.
In this context, and then that was my last question, is what gives you reason for hope? What gives you reason for optimism?
I think that the way of thinking, which is writer's thinking. So I look into this historic process because I'm one of the witnesses of this process, which started in 1980s. So I'm always in that, let's say, historic stream, how Ukraine is changing, how Ukrainian life is going better and better, and how we go through different obstacles made by Russia, which are always more and more and more difficult. If we look into year 2004, Orange Revolution, but it was just 3 weeks of such a challenge, and then Ukraine won. Then was the second Maidan. It was 3 months, and Ukraine won. And now we have a real war, and maybe it is going to last 3 years. It would be somehow logical, but I see it as a novel written by somebody, I don't know, by God or by somebody, but Weltgeist. And you know, I am a reader of that novel, and I'm sure there will be happy end. It doesn't make any sense for the author to find some other end for this book.